you might not have done is read the website that goes along with the picture of Jared. So I'd take a few moments and read that if you would.
Should put a picture of him before.
What's that? Your pants are skewed, is that what you said?
So they should put like a picture of him before with like the pants he wants to fit in.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's clever.
Yes. Those are like really stretchy pants.
I don't know what you're talking about with stretchy pants. Are you trying to get something, my friend? We would have blues.
I should have worn my Halloween costume today.
So, friends, when I read this, how do I feel? Natalie, go, please.
Huge deal about Jared.
They created a campaign around this guy.
Yeah.
They created a campaign around this guy, but yet, buried on the website,
They're like, do not endorse the name.
but yet we're going to put him in every commercial we make for like, he's been around for a decade now?
Yeah.
Right?
I think put the weight back on.
He's over a decade. Is he still, I don't actually watch television at all, but is he still around? Do they still bring him out every once in a while, trot him around? His
I
pants?
saw him in a cameo in a movie like a week ago.
He now has an acting career, right? Exactly. So he's around, and he's become almost a pop icon. But yet, and he's a pop icon because of Subway using him in their ads. But yet, you come over here, and you read, their results are not typical. So in other words, we're going to put him on our adverts, FYI, for their healthy menu. That's what he was advertising. He wasn't advertising necessarily just Subway, but Subway's 6 grams of fat or less menu. So we're going to put him up there, show him running down the street. The last time I remember seeing this was probably 7 or 8 years ago, was him running down the street, like working out. But we hardly mention in the commercial, verbally or visually, any of that except for the fact he's going in a Subway. But as you might pay attention to that one, next time you see one of those, watch the fine print come across the bottom.
I always try to read it.
Yeah, you should. They make it very hard, don't they? Because it's like 4-point font, and it's usually white against the white background.
And they blur it, yeah.
Right? And it's real quick. It's real quick. But that's why I like going and finding it online, because by law, I'm sure they have to have it on there by law, which is, I'm sure, why every time you see a weight loss commercial, whether it's LA weight loss or whatever, blah, 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 look at the bottom, the before and after pictures, results not typical, results not typical, results not typical. Why in God's name would you put results not typical on that? Because typical results would show you what?
No change.
Either a couple pounds or no change at all. That's the problem, you see. A typical result would see no change whatsoever. And that's the problem with that kind of idea of typical versus atypical. Show the outliers. So let's get into this. Let's get into this idea of the word outliers. Of the word outliers. Now let's get into this.
Do you rewrite the word outliers as the results not typical?
That's how I define it, actually. That's how I define it. There are many ways to identify an outlier, but there's no common definition of what the word actually is. So here's what I call it. Here's what I call it. I think this is a fairly standard, and oftentimes I was watching Mindy teach writing. Mindy, what's her last name? I forget her last name, but she's awesome. And she's like, one of my pet peeves in students' papers is when they start a paper with a definition from a dictionary. Because that's not fact. That's just because somebody put it in a book and sold it. It doesn't mean it's necessarily correct. It just means that it's been commonly accepted. So, with that in mind, here's how I think of the word outlier. And it's kind of how I think it's become common lexicon language. An outliers are any data points that are significantly, I'm going to put these in quotes, significantly different from the remainder of the data set. Now, what I don't want to do is make the definition of an outlier be something obtrusive for you guys or something cumbersome for you guys. What I do want to do over today and also part of Tuesday is show you ways of figuring out if there are any in a data set. And the trick with that is this word significantly. What does it mean to be significantly different?
Not.
Well, but define a lot. I'm with you, Robert, but define a lot. Like, what makes Jared an outlier? And here's the thing, he might not be one using certain measures. I can't track down data for these guys, unfortunately. I can't track down the data on Jared's weight loss. I wish I could, because I love to analyze it. I love to actually analyze it in class with you guys, but I can't
What
find
kind
it.
of data would you be looking for?
The weight losses of this program they're talking about. They're talking about individuals lost weight by exercising, eating a balanced, reduced calorie diet that included Subway sandwiches. So I would like to see the data.
Jared created the program, didn't he? Wouldn't you get it from him?
No, what I'm saying is I want to compare him to the other individuals and see how he fares with that data set. He might be the largest weight loss or the smallest weight loss, I guess, but he might fall right in line with like 10 or 12 other people that also lost that. He might not be that significant, that a lot, if you will.
Maybe there isn't one.
Maybe there isn't one. That's another possibility. If I can't find data, maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe it's been thrown away. Who knows? So that's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to. Kate?
Well, I almost think that there might not be any, because it says that included Subway.
Mhm.
So that could just mean, Jared's been running 5 miles a day, not eating breakfast or dinner, but he
Yeah,
maybe
has
you gotta
maybe
take more
one Subway sandwich. It doesn't say how many.
Totally. How did you quantify that? And this is why I always try to find the studies, because any good research study, and emphasis on good research study, has to give you the methodology that they used. We took our people and broke them into 2 groups. One group was allowed to consume their normal diet as if nothing ever changed. The other group had a regimen of at least 1,000 calories a week, or between 1,000 and 5,000 calories a week of Subway sandwich, plus their additional 12,000 calories per week of whatever else they ate. I don't know. I've never seen it. I can't find it, so therefore I can't comment on what they did. But that's what I would be wanting to check, Robert. Where did he fall with respect to that? It could very well be that his weight loss data falls into a bell curve in a place where it's like, well, duh, a lot of people fell into that. Or it could be that he fell off the bell curve. We'll come back to that momentarily. You see what I'm getting at, friends? So that's the idea. That's the idea is you can't call something an outlier unless you compare it to something else. A data point cannot be an outlier on its own. This comes back up. We'll give you this one little story, then we'll let you go for your break. In the writing class yesterday, there was kids were reading an essay on caffeine and energy drinks. And this was eye-opening for me as well. There was an energy drink called cocaine for a while before they pulled it off the shelves. There was also one called Fix, F-I-X-X or something like that, and then another name I've since forgotten. But this was staggering. They said that the amount of caffeine in a 20-ounce bottle of this Fix stuff, was it 1,000? No, it was 500 milligrams of caffeine. Now, that number by and of itself doesn't tell you anything until you realize that a cup of coffee has like, I want to say 80, 50? Is it 50?
Depending on size.
15?
50.
Oh, 50 for, let's call it an 8-ounce cup.
And it depends on how strong.
Absolutely. So let's say it's a normal roast, not like I do where I put the damn thing in the French press and forget it's there all day and then go back and drink it. I'm like, it is the best. I'm talking about cocaine. But let's say it's 50 milligrams per 8 ounces. Well, if you make that 20 ounces, what's that going to be? About 125 milligrams-ish, somewhere in there. So this has 4 times as much caffeine as a similarly sized cup of coffee, right? But what the kids were getting hung up on was, number one, they didn't do the math. They said a cup of coffee has, they said like 60 or 70. Like, my God, this is 8 times more. I'm like, apples. First of all, 20 ounces to 20 ounces. And they're like, oh my God, it's still 4 times as much. I'm like, okay. So what I then did was, it was just fun sitting with them. It's funny when people don't take statistics and they don't think of things like this. I just typed caffeine levels in energy drinks. And I spelled it correctly. And now, this one made me a little bit scared. I see Red Bull. And I'm like, if anything's got a Red Bull tagged after it, that might be a little bit biased based on who's putting it out there. So, and I had a bad experience with Red Bull back in the day. So then I went to energyfiend.com. I'm like, I have no idea what Energy Fiend is, but let's take a look at it. And this was interesting. This is the milligrams of caffeine, and I haven't fact-checked this to know how accurate or how precise or how they got their measurements. But here are the actual caffeine in milligrams per the number of fluid ounces. And down here is milligrams per fluid ounce. So coffee, as a comparison, 50 milligrams per 8 fluid ounces, correct? So what's 50 divided by 8? 12 and a half. I think. Did I do that right? 5 divided by 8, 0.625. 5 divided by 8. So it's 6.25. I did divide again. About 6 milligrams per fluid ounce on coffee. About 6 milligrams per fluid ounce on coffee. So compare that to what you see over here. Yes, okay, charged super shot.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta talk about that. And what's, well, then you look at it, it's 2 fluid ounces, it's one of those little tiny, you know, whatever, the 5-hour energies, I guess. But look, do you talk only about the 140? Only about the, you see, what are you noticing as we scroll down through here?
Some of them are lower.
Some of them are actually lower than a cup of coffee. But this person in their paper only noticed the fix. Let me find fix, hang on. I think it was called that. Stop me if you see anything interesting. I'm looking at the left side right now. Oh, I passed the F's already.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for fix, but I guess maybe they pulled that from the shelves too, because I don't see it in the list. It was fix, and it was something. Did you guys see cocaine? Is this still on here?
Yeah.
It is. Cocaine?
Nobody said cocaine and Coca-Cola.
That's why it's called Coca-Cola. It was one of the 7, the original ingredient list on Coca-Cola was 7X. It was 7 things, one of which was cocaine. Yeah.
Well, actually, it wasn't cocaine, it was just derivative from the leaf.
Well, okay, or arguably from the cocaine leaf, so yes.
It's actually a huge difference.
It is. It's in much the same way green tea and black tea are the same plant, but very different processing. You're absolutely right. So there's cocaine, 140 per fluid ounce. Okay, so now we're getting in.
The drink is.
Oh, that's the shot. Here's 33. Again, above coffee. 5 times as much as coffee, right?
Yeah.
5 times as much as coffee, a hell of a lot more than 5 times as much. But do you point to that as proof that energy drinks have more caffeine than coffee? You can, because some do. But here's the ones that are proving my point, and we're going to hide the rest of them back here so that we don't prove our point. See what I'm getting at, friends? Now, what I'm going to try to do while you guys take your 5 is I'm going to try to capture this, drop it into an Excel spreadsheet, and dilute it down into some statistics so we can play with them in class and see where these fixed shots come from. Make sense? All right, take your 5. Let's see what I can do with this. Please.